welcome to another edition of the FODcast. And today I am very excited to be joined by Romain Fouache. Romain, how close was I to getting your name right there?
Yeah, that's as close as you can get without being a French native speaker, Tim. So thanks for that. Your name's easier. It's great to be here, and thanks very much for welcoming me, Tim.
No, you're welcome. I'm really interested to understand your views on a number of things that we're going to talk about today, particularly with the progression of AI and the requirement to have really clean data to make AI do anything helpful. Right, you are the CEO of Akeneo. Whilst I'd love to do an introduction, I think it's best to hand over to you so you can let the audience know your background and your role at Akeneo.
Yeah, with pleasure. Thanks, Tim. So indeed, Romain Fouache, I'm the Chief Executive Officer here at Akeneo, and I've spent the past 25 years working in the data and AI space. I like to say that I was doing AI before it was cool. I'm still not cool, but AI actually is. And I joined Akeneo about 18 months ago. So Akeneo, a platform to govern and orchestrate product information management. And I joined Akeneo specifically because for the past 25 years, I've kept hearing people when I was talking about all of the things we could do with data and AI, telling me, it sounds great, but my data is not good enough. So at a time where AI is actually going to be driving a lot of the top line performance of companies, working with a company that ensures that the data is there to be able to drive that seems to me like one of the most important places you can actually contribute to the success of organizations.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciated. I want to start with something which I'm personally really interested in, and I also have struggled with as a consumer. So there's a lot of questions I have that you need to answer for me here. But we're talking about AI agents, and everyone is talking about AI agents. If they cannot find the product you're looking for, and or they can't find something to recommend, or even they don't have access to the full suite of products, is that a fair way right now to frame the current positioning? Because as a consumer, I want this thing, and I'm hoping that these agents give me the best version of the thing that I want without any trouble. But it doesn't feel like that's happening to me anyway.
Well, we are not there just yet. I think one of the drastic change that agents and conversational AI actually bring is that we used to be in a world where everything was keyword based. So, when you wanted something, when you had an intention, when you had an intent, you had to think about how you were going to formulate it with keywords. And then you would find products that matched, that had been associated with these keywords. The big change with AI, conversational or with agents, is that now the system can actually understand, if I may say, or at least analyze your intents and actually try to find the products that match. So it used to be that you needed to say, I want paint. Now you can say, I want to change the color of my living room. That might not be a great example because it's a bit more complicated, but still it will find the products that match it. So it means that to be visible in the world of AI and conversational agents, you need two things. First, you need your product to be seen by these agents, and so make sure they are shown on your website or shown on the specific channels in the right way. But maybe even more importantly, your products need to have a depth of information that allows them to be mapped to the intention of the users. Because you now have infinite potential different intents as opposed to limited set of keywords, and the information you provide about your products needs to be able to allow the AI to map the intention with the product itself. And if you miss any of these two steps, having your product visible or the depth of information, you are becoming invisible.
Okay, so I need to talk about user intent, and maybe it's a user error on my part, because maybe I'm trying to use these agents in the same way I would have if I've Google searched something, which might be a part of the issue. But user intent, I don't always know what I want. Do you know what I mean? So how does that feed into this? Because I kind of know I want a thing. I want to buy some new clothes when I go to Ibiza this year, but I don't really know what I want. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's it's a question of topic and domain. You might know exactly the type of clothes you want to wear when you're going to be at Ibiza next year. I have no idea if I ever went to Ibiza what I should be wearing. And so your question may be, I want that brand in that size, in that color, where my formulation is going to be, I'm going to Ibiza, what should I wear? And there it's, but Ibiza, this is the type of clothes, this is what you're going to need, this is the temperature, the weather is going to be there, this is, I know what you fit like and what your taste is like, these are the products I recommend to you. But there might be topics where it's the other one, where I know what I want and you wouldn't be able to say, if you're not big on do it yourself, you might want to say, I want to renovate my living room table, and it will tell you, you need sandpaper, you need this, you need that. So can you tell me a bit more about what it is? Whereas maybe I would have come and said, I want this tool and I want this equipment and these accessories. So I do think, and that's a question we can dig into, that there will be and continue to be some cases where the consumer knows what they want. And so it's just a question of keyword mapping, because you exactly know the product that you want, but many more cases where the consumer knows what they want to achieve, what is their intention, and there AI and agents actually bridge the gap.
Okay. We need to talk about the speed of change, how quickly this is actually happening. It's important for us with the podcast, right? Because we will do this and the release could be in 3 or 4 weeks' time. And how much has changed those 3 or 4 weeks? It could be massive, right? And so from your perspective, how quickly is this becoming real for brands and retailers? And is it a problem this year? Or actually, is that something we need to worry about for 2027 and beyond?
So just, yes, it will be massive in the next 3 or 4 weeks before it's released. There's going to be new frontier models released by OpenAI, new model open source released by the European and Chinese. We're probably going to have at least a couple of new agentic commerce protocols being released. This is what happens every 3 or 4 weeks. So the change is massive. Now the question is, where is the change coming the faster? Where does it have the biggest impact? And what do you need to be ready for that? In the continuation of the example you gave, I still want to buy some stuff when I know what it is through keywords, and some stuff it's probably more about intent. I do think that what we're going to see is agentic commerce not replacing the full of e-commerce and brick and mortar, just like e-commerce did not replace brick and mortar 20 years ago, but agentic commerce changing the customer journey, where you will start on ChatGPT or Google AI mode or Gemini. Today ChatGPT has, I believe, more than 1 billion users already. And from there, as you interact with the system, it will drive you to potential products that you might want to buy. And then you might go to the websites, or you might go to a store, or you might directly have agents do the purchasing. I think agent purchasing is probably a bit longer down the line, but the discovery part, the fact that you start from an agentic discovery or conversational discovery standpoint, is already there in many cases and is only going to grow. So the core element is, how do you make sure that you're ready for that? Because it's not being ready for a new channel, it's being ready for a deep change in the full of your customer funnel, regardless of the channel on which you are. And for that, it takes you back to the question. The only way to be ready for AI is for your data to be ready for AI, and getting your data ready is something that is very difficult. I share the fact that I'm not from the retail side or e-commerce side, but from the data and AI side. This has been the biggest pain of companies for decades, having data that can map the use cases they want to cover. So yes, companies need to understand that if they don't get ready now, they will disappear. They will not be visible anymore, so they will not sell anymore, and getting ready is an effort in itself.
Just on that, I think a lot of people said if you don't go online, you're going to disappear. And that wasn't always the case. We did see a big shift, but there were some things which you just really wanted to buy in the showroom. Cars. I mean, cars still aren't widely sold online. So your view is that same shift is going to happen. If you don't get your data accurate and accessible, then you're going to really struggle to be able to sell your product.
I think the car example is a fantastic example, Tim. It's, yes, cars are very seldomly bought online. But I think there's probably even less cases where people have not looked online at cars first, understand what are the characteristics, what are the differences, and then actually gone to buy them directly in the stores. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. It's going to be the same. Will AI and agentic replace traditional e-commerce websites? Yeah, maybe a small part of it, but maybe in many areas, no, the e-commerce website will still exist, but you will have started your discovery and your conversation from an agent. And that is what companies need to be ready for. And yes, the type of data, the depth of the data, and the structure that is required for this type of situation is different than the one you had in the e-commerce. If only because in e-commerce, you can have 50 pages of product attributes, but humans are not going to be hiding through them, and agents will. On the e-commerce, you can have some things that are incomplete or wrong because maybe your website just looks good enough, has good enough colors, have a great enough font that people won't pay attention to any errors. The agent will pay attention to the errors. So the depth of information you need to have, the depth of information you can have, and the margin for errors are drastically different from what it was when it was purely e-commerce. E-commerce is most likely not dying, but e-commerce is clearly getting a new layer, which is the agentic one.
Okay. But and just to be clear, you still believe currently you'll be taken from ChatGPT or whatever you're using to the website of the company selling the product?
Not in all cases. There again, same thing as from brick and mortar to e-commerce. People still buy things in brick and mortar store, but there's also a lot of things that they now just purely buy online. And I think it's going to be the same. There are things that will be bought directly within ChatGPT, and it'll be full disintermediation of this Gemini, and it's directly transacted there. There will be things where you will still want to go to the brands or distributors' websites to make your purchase. And there will be things where you'll still go into a store. What exactly is going to be the proportion of each? I don't know. What I'm deeply convinced of is that regardless of where you buy, 100% or close to it is actually going to be first influenced by agentic and then potentially transacted in other means.
Okay, understood. You've used the phrase, your product data is your go-to-market strategy. What do you actually mean by that?
So another way to look at it is there's no good AI without good data. That's easy, no good AI without good data. There is no AI revenue without product data. So there's no good AI revenue without good product data. And that's fairly straightforward. As soon as you move to the AI and agentic world, ultimately the thing is that the only thing that remains is your data. All of the rest is processed and consumed and managed by the agents. So it means that what is going to be driving your performance is actually your product information. If it's able to map to enough of the end customer's intents, if it's actually better structured than your competitors. So as soon as we move into an AI and agentic era, the only way you have to be performant is to better manage your product data and product information than the people that are around you. So ultimately, your performance is almost entirely defined by your product information. So yes, your GTM strategy is your product data strategy because it's what's defined your discoverability, your conversion, and ultimately the way you make it flow, where you're getting it from which suppliers, how fast you're able to adjust it, and where you push it to distributors and channels is the entirety of the go-to-market strategy you might have. So your product data strategy is your GTM strategy.
But retailers, you would assume, should have already been thinking about this because if you take AI away, product data is still how you access the product. So how is it different now, given the implementation of AI?
Because you, as a human, you can only think about a limited number of dimensions of what you're looking at. As I said, keywords have been imposed on us as a way to interact. So you just need to have product data that is good enough on these keywords. If you look at Google Shopping today, it's mostly a title and a photo, because that's the way you browse through information. When you need to look yourself through 1,000 different products that match your keyword, there's not much depth you can put into that. Now that it's being read and analyzed by agents, the full 500 attributes that you have can actually make a difference in the final decision, and will actually make a difference in the final decision. This is why that challenge and necessity of depth and comprehensiveness of information is orders of magnitude more important today than it was in the past. So yes, every company wanted to have information that was good enough. And if you look in the history of managing product information, early e-commerce, the only thing that was needed was just for the product to exist. So basically, it's you have a title, you have a picture, you're good, and managing product information was just inputting things in a database. Then, as a number of marketplaces and channels evolved, product information was more about having an engine, having workflows where data could flow from one place to the next. With agents, it's about having the depth to cover the infinite number of intents at the velocity at which your market moves, and with zero margin for error. That's an important element. Zero margin for error for two reasons. Because one, if you get something wrong, the agents might capture it and will take you all the way down of never being mentioned again. You will fall into a black hole because you're sharing information that is inaccurate. And second, it used to be that one bad product experience would potentially cost you one customer. Today, there is so much visibility and information flows so fast that one bad product experience can actually cost you all of your customers. So zero margin for error, despite the fact that you have higher stakes, higher velocity, and from all the people I talk to, not bigger means than you used to have in the past.
Okay, so zero margin for error will probably scare somebody, right? What to you is the cost of still treating product data like it's a back office function?
I mean, that's the notion of your product data strategy is your GTM strategy. The cost of treating it as a back office function is basically the value of your company. If you don't get ready for the changes that are there, there is a good chance that you will actually disappear, just like companies that were not able to navigate the e-commerce shift. This is the same type of shift. If you're not ready for it, you will not be there in a few years. And the big challenge is that change is coming way faster than the early 2000 change of e-commerce. So yes, companies need to be ready, and being ready is not just about having systems, it's first and foremost about having data.
Yeah, and again, we've touched on the speed of change, which is, as you say, really fast. When we talked before the podcast, you talked a bit about needing a feedback loop to stay on the front foot with your product data. Can you give us a bit more insight as to what that means?
Yes, of course. I mean, if we follow the thread of ultimately AI and agentic is going to touch every customer journey. That's point one. I think that's a fair assumption. Second one, as soon as it's about AI and agentic, the only thing you control is your data, because the whole of the experience is being stripped away and abstracted by the AI. So that's point number two. That takes you to your product data is your GTM strategy and your GTM performance. And so the question is, how do you use that in an offensive manner to actually be able to drive your performance? And to be able to do it, you need to understand what's the ultimate outcome from it. Is your product data good enough that you end up being at the top of the engines? Is your product data good enough that you're able to capture what users say about your product, why they're using it? We talked about intents. It might be that people use your products for reasons that are different than the ones for which you're marketing it, and you need to be able to capture that. So our view at Akeneo is that you need to be able to capture the end game so that you can influence the way you're structuring and fulfilling the information on your products, because the way you're going to be presenting them will actually be influenced by what's happening on the field with your product. You need your data to be born clean that you need your data to be born clean with a purpose. And the only way you can do that is by actually having that feedback loop where you understand what's the performance and what's the feedback on the field of your products so that you can feed it back into how you're going to be structuring and collecting the information on them.
And you will have access to a lot of clients. You will be speaking to a lot of clients all the time. What percentage of them are already ready for this, in your view, just broadly?
Already ready, a very small fraction. Most of them are working on it, and there is still quite a few that don't know where to start. And I think ultimately, no one can claim victory just yet. What we're seeing is customers who paid lots of attention to product data before are actually ahead of the curve. We're hearing customers that had done lots of work to structure and enrich their product information, see themselves be ranked very highly on ChatGPT, Gemini, and Google AI mode because there's already the material for the AI system to digest them in an efficient way. So some of them are in a better shape than others, but I think no one is fully ready. And to be honest, I don't think it's possible to be fully ready because, as you say, it's moving so fast that the definition of readiness is actually changing from week to week to week. So it's just about making sure you have the right attention, the right processes, and the right systems in place so that your product data can live at the pace of the market.
Yeah, and so it's a very small percentage that are ready. Why do you think most businesses are they're still not ready? They conceivably still don't have that feedback loop in place, I'd imagine.
So having the feedback loop is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. And there is good reason for that. When you're a company, there's a million different things you could do. And so you need to put your energy where it's going to have the biggest impact. And the rise of agentic commerce is actually not that old. If you look at NRF, last year people were talking a bit about AI. This year everybody was talking about agentic. So it's something that is growing in the mind of companies. The challenge is that it's coming in faster than the time it takes to actually be ready for it. So now people are starting to try to accelerate a bit their transformation. The second element that makes it that companies are not ready just yet, it's because it's complex to do. It's complex. Putting data in place is complex because it touches on many systems and, more importantly, it touches on many people. And especially if you want the feedback loop, it touches on many different teams, from the marketing teams to the sourcing teams to the potentially SEO teams and user review teams. It touches many different teams, and you need to find a way to actually cut through the noise so that the feedback loop can actually operate in the right way.
And the feedback loop let me actually give a little more context. AI has fundamentally changed our business in terms of the types of people that are being hired or being moved around within businesses to accommodate its use and its uptake. In terms of the feedback loop, who would actually own this then? Because you described what it is, but who client side would own it?
I think the big element is who owns the performance of your product data. And today it's not clearly defined because it's depending on the organization. Product data and performance are not words that actually are used together in the same sentence. So in my view, there is a natural feedback loop to put in place that is with the product data performance owner, which might be the product data owner, where you actually automatically get from ChatGPT, from Google Shopping, from user review websites, elements of performance and usage of your products. And the system itself can make recommendations so that it tells you add this attribute, remove this one. So ultimately, the system will do the grunt work, and you need to have someone who's a product data owner or marketing owner validate what has been done there and make the change. So I think, if we look at it from a pure product data standpoint, it is something that can be properly isolated within the team that manages that product data.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I keep hearing conversations around a switch from SEO to GEO as well. it would be good to get your take on that. So how real is this? How genuine is this? And I mean, everything's moving fast, but how fast is this particular thing moving?
It's interesting. So a few months back, I was already hearing some of our customers tell us that 5 to 10% of their sales originated from ChatGPT, as not where the sale took place, but where the customer actually came from. So it is coming fast. It's a material amount of business that is coming through that. I think the most interesting thing about geo is the rules are still entirely to be defined. SEO, it's 20 years of optimization by companies across the world that have led to fairly understood rules on what can be done to improve your positioning. On geo, we don't know. We don't know just yet. What we do observe, and that is fairly natural, is that the more structured and comprehensive your data, the
Well, that was helpful. That is a helpful by all accounts. I would suggest we edit that bit out.
Yeah, ideally. I mean, maybe it's just a bell to show the urgency of moving from SEO to geo. That's the sound of inaction. You can keep that one this way. That can make for a good teaser. In the middle of it, you've got the alarm coming out. It's we need to be geo ready. We need to be geo ready.
I'll make sure we tee that up at the start. Where were we, Romain?
SEO to geo and the change coming. I was mentioning the fact. So we're already seeing generative AI, so conversational and agentic, as a significant source of sales. And I've had some customers share that they have 5 to 10% of their sales that originate in this type of conversational systems. So companies need to be ready. The thing is that how you become ready for geo is a tough one. We've known SEO for 25 years. The rules are fairly well established. Geo is new, and companies need to be able to adjust to these new rules. The only and most important way you can be ready for it is just be able to manage that feedback loop. If you can actually monitor how your products individually are identified and brought up by ChatGPT, by Gemini, and the rest, and how you can adjust your product data to be better represented where you think you should be, then you actually have a chance of being there. And that's, as I mentioned earlier, what we're already seeing. Our customers that have the best ranking on ChatGPT are the ones that had the best structured and comprehensive data to begin with.
And does it massively change between models, chat, Claude, etc., when you're and you're advising clients accordingly?
So today, most of the attention is on ChatGPT. So people want to be seen there. That being said, we're seeing a growing trend of people seeing Gemini and Google AI mode as being the place where they want to be. These are not drastic changes. I think what's interesting is that both companies are started to think about how they're gonna make ingestion of product information easier. I mean, there was an article a couple of months back on how ChatGPT's shopping ambition had shattered on the challenges of messy product data. And I think it's interesting to see that even OpenAI is struggling with managing messy product information. And so both of them are thinking differently about how they're going to be collecting more structured, more comprehensive product information in the future, because this is what actually drives their ability to satisfy users, to match user intent, as we said, to product. So today we're not seeing that many differences in what makes it that you can be better ranked. It's basically comprehensiveness and accuracy of your data, but we're starting to see different protocols on how you're going to be making that data visible to the agents.
Okay. So I'm a retailer and I don't want to be the next Woolworths or Toys R Us, right? and I know things are changing rapidly, and I can only spend a certain amount of time and money on certain things. What do I do? Like, what should a retailer in that position listening to this now do? Like, where do they start?
Well, you start by sending me an email, of course, romain.fouache@akeneo.com. That's easy. That's the first easy step. No, what you need to think about is the only way you have to differentiate yourself is your product information and your pricing. So yes, there is a question about your pricing strategy that is important. And there is a question of what your product information is going to be like, how fast it flows and how comprehensive it is. And as we said several times already, it's very rare that companies have significantly extensible investment capabilities to make these things better. So you need to think about how you're going to be able to capture infinite intent at a constant change with zero margin for error, with basically less means than you had in the past. And might sound a bit challenging. The good thing is that technology has evolved because AI and conversational or agentic is a new way to sell, but it's also a new way to operate software. And I think that's a very important element too, is AI can help in managing that conundrum and actually allow companies to enrich their information much faster, do that with a much higher level of trust, and be more comprehensive than they were before. With a big risk, because ultimately, I think one of the biggest risks of the next few years is companies falling into the trap of AI slop, product slop. Now, if I take a product title and I tell ChatGPT generate 100 pages of product description out of that, ChatGPT can. It's just going to be an endless stream of uninteresting information about that product that's just going to dilute the full of the product experience you want to build. So the big question is, how do you leverage AI and agentic to actually help you add structural informational value to your product data that then can be converted into whatever text, whatever language, or whatever experience that's going to be there. So my comment on where to start is, yes, contact.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
I have no idea what that is.
That's the sound of the old e-commerce stack being taken down and being replaced by a fully agentic one.
Obliterated. Yeah, sorry. Carry
no
on.
No problem. It will make for a great teaser, on LinkedIn, I think, to have the sound of the alarm, the sound of the construction after that. This is, I'm not kidding. I think this is what you should start with. That's the funniest part of the interview. So, sorry, where was I? Yes, agentic software itself is going through drastic change, just like commerce is, software is. LLM are redefining the way software operates, and I think this is what can be the light at the end of the tunnel for companies that are realizing that they're going to need to be able to match infinite intent with perpetual change with zero margin for error, without additional means that might not have been possible a few years back. It will be possible now thanks to the use of AI to actually manage that product information. There again, being careful not to just generate slop. It's all about being able to create added value, additional product data and information, and not just generate endless streams of contents that ultimately will just dilute the value of your products.
And what if I say to you, Romain, I don't have the bandwidth right now?
That's a great question. So as a CEO, I can share the answer I share with everybody in the company that tells me I don't have the bandwidth to do something. My answer is simple, is we never have the bandwidth to do everything. There's only 24 hours in a day. There's only 7 days a week. There's only 365 days. There's sometimes 366 days a year. There is always more work than there is time. So the question is not the bandwidth that you have, because every person has the same bandwidth. It's what is the most important thing you can do with the time that you have. And so that's the big question. It's how can people make the most of the time that they have? So first, is that work at the top of the pile? And second, can it be done in the most efficient way possible? Should being ready for AI commerce and agentic commerce be top of mind of companies. I'm 100% convinced of it. I mean, if you do work with the assumptions we shared earlier, it does mean that most companies that are not ready for it will actually fail in the next few years. And I think avoiding failure is a good enough priority to spend some time on that. Then the second element is how do you do that in the least time-consuming fashion possible? And for there, you need to think your stack and your organization to be able to do that efficiently. At Akeneo, we are developing fleets of agents that are specialized in managing your product data and product information, that are able to manage that feedback loop so that you can actually get the best result possible for the effort you're going to be putting in it. And there's one very important here, which are the people who are going to be doing that. Yes, Tim, you had a question?
Yes, the question is the differences in B2B and B2C for this. That's what I'm thinking about now. There's fundamental differences between how the consumer and the business engage in those two models. Does this change from one to the other when you're looking at agentic and product data?
Yes, it does, definitely. So the first thing that does not change is that regardless of whether you're a B2B or a B2C buyer, you usually go on ChatGPT or Gemini to get a first look at what is being done. B2B buyers are big users of AI, just like B2C buyers are. So you need to exist, you need to be visible, you need to be there. Then how the next step happens is actually something that will be fairly different in B2B and in B2C. I do think that we're still probably not there yet on the transactions being agentic in B2C, but that might be something that we'll see come faster in B2B. If you look at it in B2B, a significant number of sales are done through RFPs, or a significant number of sales are done, you know exactly what are the characteristics of what you want, and you just want to buy the cheapest one possible. And these are exactly what the AI and agentic is going to be the most efficient on. So I think in both B2B and B2C, discovery, agentic 100%, and transactions might actually come faster in B2B than in B2C. I do think that one thing that is interesting is that B2B are traditionally a bit less marketing heavy than B2C, which typically meant in the past that there was way less attention on product data because product data was managed by marketing. So if you didn't have a huge marketing team, you could not work on the depth, breadth, comprehensiveness on your product data. Thanks to the changes in the software, the ability to automate a lot of tasks, the use of agents to actually manage your product information, it is now possible for B2B companies to provide that level of depth and comprehensiveness on their product data, which is new and creates a significant change in the way B2B companies can think about their sales performance in the age of AI and agentic.
Okay. Talk to me, and I asked you about this before the podcast, but talk to me about marketplaces, because one of my, I guess it's a gripe, is that if I want a thing, I know that I'm fishing from a very limited pool because there's data blocking. You can't access a marketplace. ChatGPT can't go see what's on Amazon, for example. And I don't see how this will be overcome. And as a consumer, I don't think it's going to give the best outcome.
It's a good question. Marketplaces are interesting because they have proved that it's possible to disintermediate brand websites, and that has been the first step actually that goes towards that vision of agentic and conversational commerce. That you don't necessarily go on the brand website to make a purchase. I think agentic will amplify that drastically, and so there is a legitimate question to know that whether agents will ultimately replace marketplaces, because at some point they will find a way to get access to what happens on the various distributors, or if they will just be an additional and new channel in parallel to marketplaces. I do think that disintermediation, which is what marketplace to some extent do to brands, is done at an even higher level with agents, which actually shows where there is so much interest of Google, of Amazon, and the rest of making sure that they own the agentic experience of their end users.
Okay. But in my view, the marketplace piece is still growing. It's still growing across Central Europe, in the US, based on the experiences I'm having and the clients I'm talking to, particularly strongly in some categories. So are we potentially getting ahead of ourselves with this?
I mean, if you look at it, AdWords business is growing, marketplace is growing. I mean, everything grows until it starts to shrink. So the fact that it's growing is not an indicator of the fact that it will always grow. I do think that significant parts of the benefits of marketplaces can be covered by agentic. Will it fully replace it or partly? I don't know just yet, but I think that's something to look at very, very carefully. I think brands have a huge opportunity to take back some ownership about their products, and that's, a general tendency that we are seeing across Google Shopping, Amazon, give brands a bit more space to own what their products are about. And as soon as that's the case, then the big question becomes managing the pricing and the logistics. And this is where we'll see if marketplaces still have a role to play to be able to be a good intermediary for the pricing and logistics specificities of the sellers or not.
So actually, from that position, it's an opportunity for brands.
I think it's a very interesting opportunity for brands to see how they're thinking about the distribution in the long term. But it's it's an ecosystem. Everyone has a role in the ecosystem today. The brands, the distributors, the discounters, everyone has a place. And I just think that some of this place will be redefined by the fact that things will be purchased differently. I mean, a change in the consumer behavior and customer funnel redefines the forces in presence, the balances. And yeah, I do think that with product data getting more importance, brands might actually own a bit more of the outcomes. That being said, we are also seeing distributors being very successful in being visible on the agentic commerce side of things, and I'm curious to see how things are going to be turning out in the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see that certainly by the end of this year. We'll see how it's starting to shape up. One of the things you mentioned to me before was me, we're not users of software anymore. And I thought about this, and I still feel like a user of software, but you're talking about we're managing agents. I've had some experience with this cash flow model for us using Claude, and it was sending various agents out to do various things at any one point in time. But I still don't feel like I'm a manager of agents. I feel like I'm using a piece of software. So tell me more about that.
I think it's not to be taken just literally. It's the image. It's the way we use software is evolving. The way we've been using software, in my view, will disappear because ultimately we'll be interacting with our computers almost the same way we'd be interacting with someone we are asking to use the software on our behalf. It's exactly the example you gave with Claude. You're not the one who actually built the cash flow spreadsheet. You ask Claude to build a cash flow spreadsheet. So you're still using software, you're still using Claude, but the way you're using it is different. You're managing your software more than using the software itself. The software is doing the usage as it was defined until basically now, and you're managing it so that it does that. And I think it's true across the class of software and SaaS. It's true for Akeneo too. The way people were using Akeneo is probably going to become a minority. People are going to be managing agents that are using Akeneo in that way, because that's the way they can actually scale themselves, be able to answer this conundrum of being able to cover infinite intents with perpetual change and with zero margin for error. No one can do that by themselves, but you can manage a full-fledged team of agents that is actually going to be doing a large part of the work for you. And they're going to be doing things great. Some things you're going to want to check, some things you're going to want to give some adjustments to. Ultimately, agents allow you to have a team that is fully scalable. and extensible. If you need to add 10 agents, it's marginal. It's very different from adding 10 people in your team. So yes, I do think that software usage is going to evolve, and we're already seeing that in you mentioned it in finance, but where it's the most present today is software development. The best software developers today are not the ones that write the most codes. They're the ones who manage the best code writing by agents. And so it's about knowing how to give the right instruction. It's about guiding the agents toward the right outcome. It's about knowing what to review and not to review. It still is a deep expertise, and it still is deep engagement and commitment from the people. But it is different from what writing code was just a year ago. And I think, we've been talking a lot about that notion of human in the loop, and having a human in the loop somewhere. I don't like that idea much, because it does give the impression that the human is just a cog in the agentic machine. The machine is nice enough that you're allowed to be in the loop. I do like the idea of having humans at the helm. The idea is not you're in the loop, you're at the helm. You're managing these agents. These agents are working with, but more importantly, for you. You give your view of what needs to be done, potentially based on some of their inputs, like you would be managing or working with people. And you drive them to the outcome that you think is the right one, with their support in execution, with their recommendation, and with their ideas. So it's not human in the loop, but it is human. It's human at the helm.
Cool. And you lead me on very nicely to something else I want to talk about, and something the audience is interested in, is how is this changing the shape of businesses? How is it changing the types of people that are being hired to build teams? It'd be really good to understand what you're seeing inside these organizations you're working with.
I think it still is a big work in progress. Things are moving fast, and people are still figuring out what is the right structure that needs to be an organization that will then reflect what are the right talents that need to be there. I think an important element is the rise of agentic software actually changes what is feasible by individual, and as a consequence changes the level of depth and specialty you need to have. There's that notion of a great employee is an employee that is T-shaped, very deep on one topic and good enough on a broad number of topics. I think AI basically allows everybody to be T-shaped. When you were just deep, you actually gain with AI the ability to be a bit broader. And your example of cash flow projection with AI, I don't know if you yourself, you were an expert in finance and were able to do that before, but now you're able to do it at least an okay manner. So your specialization is still there. No one is as deep as you are on what you do, but you can use AI to complement yourself on all of the other things. So I think in terms of talent, what you need are people who still have deep expertise in a topic, because this is where they will make a difference, but are also willing and able to evolve with the technology and ready to touch a bit on everything, because this is what breaks silos, and this is what makes companies able to operate faster using these technologies.
Okay, so here's a question for you. If you're a developer, you will have deep expertise in coding if you've been doing it for 15, 20 years, because you've done coding without AI. And so you'll have that deep expertise, and you'll be able to leverage AI, and you'll understand if what's being produced is correct, effective, if it works. If you are coming through now as a junior, you're not going to have that deep expertise and knowledge, because you're not doing the coding in the same way. I struggle to see where the deep expertise comes from in 5 years in that example.
I think that's a great question, and that's a big topic today. It's if you think that AI can do the job of a junior person, what work is there for junior person? And if you're never a junior person, how do you become a senior person? And that is indeed a big challenge. I don't believe that AI can just do the work of a junior person. I think people bring a depth of vision and point of views that allow them to be added value people, regardless of their level of seniority. It's just the way that value is going to be expressed is going to be different. And we need to make sure that we find path for junior people to start to ramp on all of these things. I agree with you. It's a big question. And I don't know what the answer is going to be just yet. I do know that's something that I'm monitoring also carefully at our company, because I do think it's important for us to make sure that we help the new generation of talents on all of our dimensions of work emerge.
With the businesses that you'll have access to, in terms of hiring gaps, where do you see them as still being behind when it comes to the kind of the structure of the team?
I don't know if companies are behind just yet in terms of hiring. I think there's a question of team structure. You know, many people see AI and agentic as being just a tech problem, just a tooling problem. But it's not the case. It's an organizational problem. It's a cross-functional design question that needs to be covered by this organization. It's not just adding a new tool. So I think the question for organizations today is more, how do I think about the way to operate? We talked earlier about the feedback loop, you know, and today one of the things that prevent the proper feedback loop on your product data is the fragmentation of teams and the siloing of teams, or you have SEO on one side, user reviews on another, product information on another. So I think companies, first and foremost, are thinking about how they need to reshape the structure of their teams so that they're able to address the cross-functional change that come with AI. And then the question of hiring, and if hiring needs to change, will come. I'm a deep believer that most people in most organizations can actually do a lot more than just their job, and that it's less about just hiring. It's more about structure and about enablement and supporting change to be able to adjust to these new ways of executing. The good thing is that everybody is facing the same changes at the same time. No one has completely solved it just yet. So companies just need to grow, and there's probably a way better path at allowing your teams to evolve with the technology than just trying to find a solution that doesn't exist outside.
Okay, well, if we fast forward a couple of years, where does this land for you? What does the actual digital commerce landscape actually look like if we keep progressing at this pace?
I mean, I do think there is a potential path, if you really take it to the end, where most of commerce happens conversationally. When there are websites, they're just generated on the fly to match with the specific needs of the user. So you have ultra personalization, you have deep intense interaction and discovery to make sure that the product that you're buying matches what you actually want to achieve. You have lots of auto optimization on pricing, delivery, trust in the distributor that is going to take place. And so, yes, there is a world where the e-commerce website as we know them either fully disappear or become way more interactive, responsive, on the fly generated than they were there before. I do think that, you know, there is a popular trend that there is an AI bubble. I do think there is a bubble on some financial components of it, but I think we still underestimate how much commerce, software, social landscape will change because of AI. I think even if we were to reach a plateau in the LLM technology today, it is already able to do so much that we're in for quite a ride of changes in the next few years.
Talk to me about on-the-fly websites, because are you suggesting that the product data will be sat there with the pricing, and each user will have a completely individual experience which is generated in real time for them based on the buying behaviors, their attributes, things they know about the user?
Yeah, I think it's potential scenario. If you see how image and content generation works today with LLMs, there is a scenario where you don't code a website anymore. You generate it on the fly based on what you know about your user, what you know about your products, and you provide an experience that is relevant with your brand, relevant with your product, and relevant with your customer directly on the fly. I think there's even if you push forward a few years, you might imagine a world in a few years where your computer is just a consistent rendering engine of LLMs. You don't have an OS anymore. You just have an LLM that is rendering content in front of you. If you've played with some of the experiments from Google that automatically generates whole worlds in which you can move on the fly with GenAI, it's not something that seems completely inaccessible. We'll see. To be honest, I think it might be a bit, it might actually deserve more than it serves. I think one of the benefits of software and computers today is the steadiness and familiarity. You learn to use a software in a specific way, and you're happy to just click on the same button all the time. The user interface of a toaster hasn't changed much over the past 70 years, and I don't see a reason why it should be AI driven. There might be quite a few pieces of software that are the same and that would not need to change, but on the consumer side and commerce side, innovation is always a big element, and I think we need to think of whether there will still be websites in the future, e-commerce website, or it will just be fully disintermediated, and if there still are, will they be the same as what they are today, or will they be a completely different beast that is 100% personalized for each combination of product, brand, and consumer?
Okay, that will be that's a massive change. But I guess as you described, it's not something that couldn't happen, right?
It's not something that couldn't happen, and the one thing that will still need to be there as the foundation for all of it is your data.
It's the data. Yeah, we come back to that again. What is, in your opinion, the one thing that retailers, brands should be focusing on this year? If they can obviously focus on one thing, they've got limited bandwidth, what would it be?
I'm going to be extremely biased on this one, but I'm going to cite a prospect that I talked to a few months back who told me that 2026 to them was the year of the attributes. And I really liked the idea. It's not just AI for AI, because as I said, you can generate endless slop about your products. It's attribute in the sense having richness, having comprehensiveness of the product data is actually what's going to be moving the needle when it comes to revenue and business performance, because in the end, that's what we're looking for, right? It's what is the activity that you can do that is the highest leverage on your business outcomes. And I do think that, if you think your product data is already more than good enough to be successful in the AI and agentic age, well, congratulations, you're probably in the top 0.2% of companies in the world. And if you're not, that's definitely something you should be paying a lot of attention to.
And what do you think is the question our sector is still not asking loudly enough or contemplating fully?
I think we're hearing a lot of questions already. The biggest one being how much will things change? And I think actually, that's the big question we're hearing. But I think the actual real question is, what are the things I'm sufficiently confident that will change that I need to be ready for? And that's, as you talked, the question of focus, the question of what is the priority. And there again, I'm extremely biased, but I've spent the past 25 years saying data as the foundation for AI. There's no good AI without good data. And that is something that, in my view, is still, even though we do have that much experience behind us, highly understated.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, look, we've covered a lot, and I was tasked to try and keep this around 45 minutes. I have failed that task, but I think it was well worth it. So I really appreciate your time and the insights. Romain, where can people find you if they want to follow you, try and chat with you further on this topic?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me, and happy to get in direct touch with the people who might want to learn a bit more about what you can do to be successful in the age of agentic commerce. And yeah, I'd be very happy to see this podcast being released in the next few weeks.
Well, we will certainly get that done. It's been a great conversation. I think there's a huge amount there the audience will love to hear about, and there's actually more we could talk about, but maybe we'll do that another time.
I'd love that. Thank you very much. It was a great conversation, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Romain.
Thank you.